Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to welcome real estate specialist, journalist, and award-winning producer and entrepreneur, Madeleine Perez. So welcome, Madeleine.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Madeleine, firstly, I'd like to congratulate you on all your achievements. Can you please share with us how your career started and give us some background?
How my real estate career started?
Yes.
My real estate career started officially about 4 years ago.
Yes.
Although it was something I'd been considering transitioning to for a while. When I relocated, I'm originally a New Yorker and had been a journalist there. When I relocated to Los Angeles, started to see opportunities really in the real estate market and seeing how value is going up so exponentially in Los Angeles as people are relocating here.
Yes.
And I'd always had an interest in real estate, and so I decided to switch careers and got my real estate license and just began from there, really starting from scratch, honestly. Although I had a huge network here of friends and family and contacts and business contacts, I had never worked in real estate before. Like I said, I was a journalist, so it was an absolute transition, but a lot of my experience in other industries really translated well and kind of allowed me to build a pretty big business in not that long of a time.
Wow, amazing. So as you were born, as you mentioned, and raised in New York and were educated at Wesleyan University and Columbia University School of Journalism. Yeah. Where did your passion for journalism start, and when did you decide to transition from journalism into real estate?
My passion from journalism started pretty young. I come from a family of journalists and lawyers, but mostly journalists.
Yeah.
So it was kind of in my blood. And after I graduated college, I went into publishing. I went into book publishing. I worked for Random House for a while. So I was working with a lot of journalists, getting their books, published. And so I was kind of coming to this realization that I wanted to stop promoting their work and started to do my own.
Yes.
And so I kind of left a cushy job and took a chance, applied to graduate school, and got accepted to, the School of Journalism, Columbia, which is the best school in the country, and went back to school. And I mostly did it for the networking opportunities and for the career opportunities that I knew it would give me. It would be a stepping stone to kind of jump past the entry-level jobs and get ahead.
Yes, of course. And it makes sense to do that.
Yeah, and it really did. So most people graduate and they have to go into local markets and start from the beginning. I went straight to the New York National News Desk for ABC News.
Wow, that's amazing.
I was covering the presidential election. So,
And how was that experience?
It was intense at times. It was amazing. It was hectic, crazy schedule. There were times when I slept in my office. But I got to cover, one of the most monumental elections in our time. It was the Obama-McCain race.
Yes.
And then I covered the following election as well. But, it was a steep learning curve.
I'm sure.
There's a big difference between studying journalism and practicing it.
Yes, of course. So what would you say some of your biggest lessons and learnings have been within your career? So from either journalism or real estate, or maybe you want to give us 2 examples.
Yeah, I think the value of networking has played a huge role in every career I've had. It's really who you know, and I know that's so cliche to say, but it's really true. Yeah. Every opportunity that has come my way has been through contact. I went to the ABC News through a professor who took me under his wing and jump-started my career. And with real estate, it was, making the right connections with the right agents and getting into the right agency and having good mentors in the beginning. So, because real estate, like journalism, passing an exam is completely irrelevant to actually practicing real estate.
Absolutely. And also it's highly competitive.
It's incredibly competitive. There are so many agents in Los Angeles, but really only about, 30% of them are doing the bulk of the business.
Yeah.
it's very easy to get your license. The majority of the people I got my license at the same time with are no longer practicing real estate because it just wasn't, it's too intense and it's too competitive and it's not for everybody. You have to have a certain kind of personality. And I think, so I think the networking aspect of it has been huge for me. And I think also just knowing your strengths and being honest to yourself.
Yeah.
I am a New Yorker. I am a straight shooter. I talk honestly. I will tell clients I don't think a house is right for them if I don't think it's right for them.
Yeah.
And
which is the best way to be, because it's not like you just want to tell somebody something just because.
Yeah. And I think a lot of agents in Los Angeles don't do that. And I think that has given me a strength. People know they can trust me. And so I think really in the beginning I was hesitant. I was trying to be a little more like gentle with stuff and like maybe tempering down my opinions. And I think that was a mistake. Yeah. In the beginning, and I quickly learned, like, the truer you are to yourself, the more people gravitate towards you.
Absolutely.
And that's brought me a lot of clients, a lot of repeat clients, a lot of referrals, because clients know that I'm going to look out for their best interests and I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So as a former journalist and award-winning producer, how do you believe this helped you in terms of skills when transitioning into real estate? And was this an organic process for you?
I think being able to read people quickly is something that came from journalism, really being able to weed through any kind of clutter or dishonesty or just being able to read a situation and get an honest feel for a situation and ask the right questions. Sometimes in real estate, clients think they want something and they actually want something else. Yes. So it's really being able to it's almost like an interview process, you
almost have to help them navigate.
I'm sorry?
You almost have to help them navigate,
Absolutely. And sometimes, it's I think I want this neighborhood, but in reality, they actually want this other neighborhood. And so that comes from questions and conversation and communication. Yes. And so I think that's where those skills have kind of translated. I think also just being able to work quickly and under pressure. And this can be a really high-stakes, high-pressure business.
Yes, and it's also very highly competitive.
Highly competitive. Like I just, wrote an offer and there were 19 other offers on this house.
Wow.
And so you have to be able to pick up the phone and start an instant relationship with the other agent in order to get a heads up and to get information. And some agents don't ask questions. I ask a million questions. How many offers do you have? How high is the highest? That sort of information has so much value for my clients. And being able to be comfortable being aggressive like that and asking those questions has done such a huge service to me and to my clients.
So COVID-19, as we all know, has turned our world inside out and upside down. So what and how have you had to adapt within the real estate industry? And can you give us some examples?
Yeah, sure. So the market in LA has remained really strong, largely because people want space. Right? They don't want to be living in a tiny condo anymore. They want a backyard. They want a pool. They're in their house all the time. So in terms of the maintaining business has been really ramped up actually for me. But we have a lot of new rules and regulations and laws about how we have to do that safely. And so we can't host open houses anymore. Everything is private showings only. Everything is masked. Everything is sanitized. There's all this additional paperwork that has to be done even to just step foot into a property. So it's definitely changed things in terms of logistics. But the plus side has been it's kind of forced only the genuine buyers and sellers to maintain in the market, right? You no longer have looky-loo neighbors showing up to your listing. The people who are coming are genuine people who really want to buy.
Which means you just cut through the riffraff, which is great for you, I suppose.
It's great. It's great. Look, we all have to be safe and careful, and the rules are what they are, and they've done a huge service to us because we've been able to keep the business going. At least in Los Angeles, I know other parts of the country have been hit harder, But it has shifted it. We've had to do a lot of more video and digital stuff, which luckily my agency was already on board with. So, there's a lot of video tours and something called Matterport, which is basically an interactive walkthrough of the house. Listing photographs have become even more important. Staging has become even more important because people are making their first assessment of a house online.
Yeah.
And being
that's
very
not easy to do either.
Say that again?
I say that's not easy to do either.
It's not if you're not prepared. For me, I'm at Compass. It's such a digital agency that we were already doing a lot of this stuff already. So like for me, and also just being technologically savvy, which I am, it's been a pretty smooth transition for me. And I'm really appreciative that I'm at an agency that has access to all this stuff for us. I think other places probably weren't as well prepared.
Yeah, for sure. So that leads me to leadership, which is a big subject at the moment, or lack of leadership. So what do you believe is unique and different about your leadership style, and what do you believe as an industry or as industry leaders needs to change in terms of entrepreneurship and in the realm of what you're doing and on a global scale to change the current narrative?
I mean, I think there just needs to be more appreciation and support for entrepreneurship in general. I think, there's not the resources, there's not the funding, there's not the appreciation that is, and this sounds hokey, but a lot of what this country was built on was entrepreneurship. And people who are self-employed or running their own businesses, a lot of them are really, really struggling right now. And I hope that there'll be more support, not financially, and in terms of just guidance and help for those people in order for them to succeed. I've been lucky in that I come from a company where there is amazing leadership, and we're getting so many resources, almost more than I can handle, on how to keep our businesses going and how to, because I am an independent contractor, I'm self-employed, and, how do you stand out in this crowd, and how do you maintain in this crowd? And, being able to be your own leader and motivate yourself every day. When you're also managing your regular life.
Exactly. And homeschooling and all those things if you have young children.
And I'm a parent and, as well. And so managing that and, there's no rule book really for how, obviously there's no rule book for how to deal with COVID, but there's no real rule book even for entrepreneurs. There's a million different coaches out there and things, but everyone has a different path. And so really having to find that leadership within yourself to find those resources, and also just kind of stay sane as well. And
mental health is a big part.
And find the time for yourself where you're, you have moments of peace for yourself, professionally and personally. I think that those things are really important, especially as an entrepreneur, COVID or not, because your business tends to intrude in a way that a staff job doesn't.
Of course.
And so setting boundaries also is really important.
Absolutely. So what would you say some of your biggest career highlights have been?
Oh, that's a good question. I could say the big expensive houses that I've sold in the double-digit millions. I mean, sure, that's very rewarding financially, and it's a big gain for me. But also some of the smaller deals are really kind of amazing, like giving someone the keys to their first house. I had a family, and this was like 3 weeks into COVID, who we found their dream house, and we were standing in it. It was on the market for, I think, 3 hours. And the listing agent was like, I just accepted an offer. And within the first 5 minutes of her open house, this is when we were still allowed to have open houses. And I literally ran home and submitted their offer as a backup offer.
Wow.
Because they were heartbroken and there was nothing anyone could have done. It was literally within 5 minutes.
Yay.
And then a week later, I got a call from that agent saying, our buyers backed out, and do you still want the house? And I call my clients. I'm like, do you still want to do this? We're in the middle of COVID. a lot of loans at that point were not getting through. And we made it happen, and they got the house.
That's amazing. What an amazing feeling as well.
It was amazing. I mean, the emails and the texts and the calls I got from these clients, and still do. I mean, literally, she said to me, "You changed our lives."
Wow.
What's better than that? And it was a lot of jumping through hoops at that point, because the rules were constantly changing. This was like end of March, early April.
Yes.
So things were really not clear. Like every day was a new hurdle. Like the lender stopped offering their loan literally the next day. Wow. So they were grandfathered in, or it wouldn't have worked out. Like so many things happened. Like, how do we do showings? How do we do inspections? I did inspections through FaceTime.
Wow.
At the time we weren't allowed in the house. We are now if the house is vacant, but at the time we weren't.
Yay.
So it was constantly pivoting. But at the end of the day, they got an amazing house at an amazing price. And they're out of the small place they were in before, and they've got 2 little kids, and they're homeschooling, and now it's like this great, serene retreat that they have. And
that's wonderful. Wow.
Yeah. And so moments like that, did I get super rich out of it? No, but it's just as rewarding.
Absolutely. So that leads me to some, personal achievements as well. You've obviously featured in some U.S. publications, from LA Magazine, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, and many others. Can you please share with us how this came about, and how important do you believe publicity is? And did this open other career opportunities for you? Or did anything else come from it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think publicity is hugely important for branding.
Yes.
For me, like you said, this market is oversaturated with real estate agents, and people can go with anybody. And so why me, right?
Yeah.
And so, having the opportunity to have a written or verbal voice of my own out there to be this is who I am and this is why you should work with me is so important. And being able to see me and see who I am as a person and speak to, hear what I have to say and how I feel about real estate is essential. And so having these opportunities to speak and be interviewed and offer my take, I think is so, so important. And publicity is important. It is always important for my listings, for them to get seen and viewed more because they're getting press. Of course, it's important. Yeah. For my clients, it's hugely important. And for me, on a business level, of course, I want my name out there, and I want to be competitive. It's essential for especially right now.
Absolutely, because there's so much noise, just in general.
So much noise, and there's so much, I saw so-and-so $1 million listings, and I'm like, right, but who are you going to really work with?
Exactly.
Let's come back down to earth, and that's a reality show, and great, but this is where we're at, and being able to kind of cherry pick me or see me or my listings somewhere has been really helpful. It's definitely generated more business and generated, better sales for my clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting back to, obviously, real estate in LA and in general is highly competitive. Obviously, in certain states, it's more competitive than others. But what would you say makes you successful in having maintained the career in real estate that you have, and why do you believe clients, both sellers and buyers, work well with you? And what makes you unique and different to other agents that keeps your clients coming back to you?
Well, I think I touched on one piece of it before, and I think it's just that I'm really honest. I'm not going to let someone get into a deal that I don't feel comfortable with just to make money. I'm going to guide them through the whole thing and be completely truthful. I think that's a big piece of it. I think I'm just really tenacious. I think I'm very driven.
And you have great personality. I think that also brings a lot to the table.
Well, thank you. I hope I do. I'm just, you have to be resilient. And, and honestly, like I've definitely had moments where, this business can really wear you down. And I'm not going to say like it's all been rainbows and butterflies. Like I've definitely had a few deals that, were really rough. And, especially as a woman, sometimes people make assumptions about you or talk to you a certain way. And you have to be able to stand your ground and be who you are. But, it's you have to pick yourself back up. And I've had to pick myself up a couple of times, for sure. And I think as women, we have to do that more often than men usually do.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's those things like constantly reminding myself of how much I love what I do and how much I love this and all the good things that have happened and, how this is really what I'm meant to do. And so when you go at it from that point of view and with that kind of genuine drive, I think it shows.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it also shows in your results at the end of the day. So
it does. But, there are people who have results just because, they came from a rich family or because...
Yeah, for sure.
There are people who have results and good for them, bless them, and that for no real reason. And then there are people who are very deliberate about it and get results from that. And I think I fall into the category of deliberate.
Yes, for sure. So I want to touch now on, obviously, you having a passion for philanthropy and having volunteered for the Concern Foundation and City of Hope. Can you share with us more about this and where did your passion for giving back come from and or what inspired you to get involved in philanthropy?
Yeah. I've always been involved in volunteer organizations and donating my time. And that's from an early age. It was just instilled in me and my schooling and my parents. And, I went to really politically active schools my whole life. And so it's kind of just a part of who I am. And when we got to LA, my husband was already involved a bit in the Concern Foundation. So we kind of, and the Concern Foundation, people don't know, they raise money for cancer research, and they are a direct funder of cancer research. And, it's also very personal to me. I lost one of my best friends at 18 to ovarian cancer.
Wow.
And I've had family members and friends been diagnosed in the last few years with breast cancer, and so it's a very important organization for me personally.
Yes.
So that's how I got involved with that. And then Hope of the Valley is a little bit more recent. It's an organization that's very near to our home. It's somewhere we donate to all the time, and they're just a phenomenal place. They provide facilities for homeless people, but they do so much more of training and job placement. And I mean, they just built like a mobile unit that goes around LA providing like showers for homeless people and like just basic necessities. And like they just do this all over Los Angeles. And they're just a phenomenal organization. And so I gotten more and more involved with them, especially as COVID kicked in and more people are in need right now, just for basic food. They're not getting paychecks anymore. And they're not, these are people who were not in crisis before who are. And so these organizations are really relying more and more on donations. So, I have that resource available to me as an agent to be able to kind of motivate a community to pitch in.
Yes.
And so, I've been working with them over the last year too.
Amazing. So that leads me to the last two questions. So what are the three key pieces of advice you would give to others looking to pursue a career in real estate and as an entrepreneur? And what legacy would you like to leave, or how would you like to be remembered?
The three pieces of advice would be to make sure you really want to do this. It's not what it looks like on television. No. So really like shadow somebody, go out with an agent and really like experience it for yourself and see if this is really something you want to do, because it's giving up your weekends. It's working nights. This is not a table, like a desk job. And it's not for everybody. No. So really do your research. Know that you're probably not going to do a lot of business your first year, and you're going to have to ride it out.
Yeah.
And can you do that? That's not something everyone financially can do.
Yeah.
And just, you have to know this to stick it out. I mean, you have to be willing to put in the time and the energy and the marketing and the research. It's not just going to come to you. Business is not going to come to you, certainly not in a major city where there's all kinds of competition. So you have to be willing to be your own best advocate and really know how to market yourself.
Yes.
To stand out. So it has to be, you have to really ask yourself if you're going to be able to do that and if you want to do it.
Yes. And what legacy would you like to leave, or how would you like to be remembered?
That's a hard question. A legacy, that makes me sound so old. A legacy.
I think most people struggle with that question.
I mean, I don't really think about my legacy, to be honest.
Yeah.
My legacy is more personal than professional. You know, it's like as a mom, like that's that's a big part of what I will leave behind, I guess, in 100 years when I die. But professionally, it's, you know, I don't think about my legacy. I don't live that way because I don't want to think that far ahead.
For sure.
Frankly, it's kind of like, you know, it's not where I'm at.
For sure. So I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And if people would like to connect with you, what are the best platforms to do so?
You know, my website, Instagram, those are my biggest ways to reach me. Obviously, you know, email, phone, whatever. But the quickest way is to probably find me on Instagram, Maddie P Properties, or my website, which is the same. You know, I am the quickest responder in the world. So, you know, I'm not one of those people who lets emails sit or text sit. I'm very responsive. So those are probably the two best ways to reach me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And hopefully we can have you back in the future and see where you are in your real estate and other endeavors through your journey.
Thank you so much for having me.